I thought, for me, watching the game, when they went 1 down and when they went down to 10 men, I thought they showed a sense of solidarity for large parts. You've got to ride your luck. When you're down to 10 men, I thought Alisson made some wonderful saves. But I thought the substitutions in key moments made big differences. Obviously, I know you're going to come on to it. Tyndall on the touchline with his shushing Jurgen Klopp during that will only wind the manager up and cause even more controversy.
Yes.
But I thought that the longer the game went on, we've had a debate this morning because somebody who works behind us has criticised Nunes, said he's rubbish.
Oh, the Arsenal fan who has to produce this show.
He said he's absolutely rubbish.
He said he wouldn't have him at Arsenal.
No, he wouldn't.
It was quite amusing.
For what reason? Right? He's got pace, he's got power, he's got strength.
Yeah,
he's unpredictable. But his 2 finishes yesterday were outstanding.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, Simon, I got the highlights when I eventually got back down here to London last night and I watched it. Get you in a second, Simon. Eddie Howe spoke post-match, so did Klopp. I mean, has it been a humbling week for Newcastle? Don't forget, they lost to City 1-0. I was there last weekend. Now they've lost to Liverpool. So let's hear from Howe and from Klopp.
Liverpool was always in the game when it was 1-0, and we played against them here last year where we had the extra man and we were excellent with 10 men. You know, we played really well that day with the man less, and it can happen. And I don't think they were a threat in the match to our goal. It was only really set plays and those 2 chances at the end. But it's happened, it's done, and we have to deal with it and process it and move on to next week.
It was one of the most special games I was ever part of. And I have a few, and I watched a few, and I coached a few. This was 70 minutes in a stadium like this with 10 men, 1-0 down. I never saw something like that. And the way we did it, I think we all agree. In the end, we deserved it. So we had chances before we scored. So we did really well. We calmed them down. We played better with 10 than with 11.
We'll get to Liverpool in a second. Simon, I mean, for Newcastle, has it been a humbling week? Are they now in the naughty corner having to think about it themselves?
Well, I mean, they've played the champions. And they've played one of the top sides in the country, albeit we think that Liverpool are going for a rebuild. I thought it said a little bit more about Newcastle than it did about Liverpool. And I was listening to the commentators sitting alongside the old champagne socialists talking about potentially 2 points dropped. Yeah. And I thought to myself, with 10 minutes to go, you're going to get beat here. The way this game is going, it isn't just going to be a point that Liverpool are going to get here. There's a distinct possibility that Liverpool are going to score another goal. So I wasn't surprised watching it. But I also think there's a cultural thing inside football clubs when you are so acclimatised to winning and you've been used to winning and you know what winning looks like teams like Manchester City and Liverpool, not so much last year, but in recent times, Liverpool are built on a fabric of understanding what it takes to win in certain situations. And Newcastle are acquiring that mindset. There's not this deep set inherent belief that they're going to be one of the top sides and win things. There's a desire and there's an ambition, there's a momentum coming behind them.
Yes.
But it's not quite there yet. So I wasn't surprised that Liverpool overcame it. Look, everyone to their own. I didn't quite see the histrionics of it being as memorable as beating teams like Barcelona. I think that's all a bit of hyperbole. And they were lucky not to be down to 9. Because, with due respect, whether he was fouled himself, whether Trent Alexander was fouled, he was booked, and he should have been booked again, he should have gone. So they should have been down to 10 then. And there's no doubt that all this, pontificating about Virgil van Dijk's position, that was also a red card as well. So they're quite lucky there. But they got good players.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, the more I've watched it, the more I've listened to other people talk about it. I've even listened to the Gaffer and Donkey.
Why would it not be, Karl?
No, I think last season 100% yes. I think obviously the new regulations and new laws this season of what is a foul. When you think he didn't give anything for the push on Trent when he went to ground, then he got booked. I think it's a silly challenge. I'm not too sure whether.
Well, I think he missed the push on Trent, didn't he? And he bottled the push that Trent gave.
100%.
Yeah.
The second yellow card, that is terrible. They can't. The amount of times now, this was the second week of the Premier League season, and they're missing more and more obvious errors than they've ever done before. But to me, with the Van Dijk one, I just felt it was. Things happen so quick at that top level.
He's last man, Karl. He's last man. I mean, come on. I know you're wearing your Liverpool hat.
Yeah, I am
a little bit. Man.
I am a little bit, and I think, for me, I still think it was borderline. I still think at the time when I seen it, Jim, right away, I didn't say sending off. I thought it was actually a very good tackle. Yeah. Actually, weirdly, he actually got it right when you look at it back properly. But to get that right in that moment.
Could it get worse before it gets better for him? Because this stamping out abuse approach from the referees is banned for 1 game, and it looks like that might be more because of what he gave it to John Brooks in the face, verbally.
I think he has to. I think once you're... Listen, you're talking to an idiot here who's been sent off and didn't just walk down the tunnel. So in some ways, I'm a little bit hypocritical, really, because I would have been probably done the same. But you do, when you get sent off, you have an obligation with the world watching to accept your punishment, what he's given you, whether it's right or wrong. And I can see more games being put on top of that.
Yeah. Well, the only difference historically is that when you're sent off, there's no debate because there's nobody giving you a second check. In this instance, what happens is there is this pause, isn't there? Almost like you're waiting for a delaying of the execution and ultimately VAR intervening to make sure that the sending off is legitimate. Yeah. So you've got that moment on time where you're stood on the pitch, which lent itself in this instance to Virgil van Dijk thinking he has the right to say something. If it's going to be retrospective adjustments for sending offs, as there was last week with Alexis McAllister, there's going to have to be retrospective consequences for people that behave on the pitch the way that he chose to behave, irrespective of frustrations. And he may well reap the whirlwind for it.
You're right. I mean, there's Andy, predictably in Manchester. Hopefully you guys are going to cover the disgraceful way Van Dijk abused the ref and wouldn't leave the pitch. He's right. It was a poor moment for Van Dijk. Reflects badly on him. Well, and I like Virgil. I know him. I like him.
Yeah, listen, I think when they're in them moments, the frustrations that come with that, and you think you've thrown the game away for your team, that he's in a moment that is almost uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And we've all been there in moments in our life when you do things and say things because of the emotion of the situation. I'm sure when he sits back and reflects, he'll look back and go, I was probably in the wrong there.
Right. Next off for Newcastle, away at Brighton, that might be tricky. Although Brighton slipped up at the weekend. Is that a good one for them to have?
I think it is. I fancy them there.
Yeah.
I've seen Brighton play a few times this season, and it's not a bad game to go to. I think sometimes playing away from home, especially at the pace that Newcastle have on the turnover, they're probably suited in some ways with the pace that they have to play away from home at this moment in time.
What do you think of Liverpool, Simon? More than a fading force this season?
I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I didn't think Newcastle were great. And careful enough and deliberate enough in the way that they could have managed this game. I don't think Liverpool started great against Bournemouth. I thought they were okay, not bad in the first game against Chelsea. So, look, I never write off Klopp because I think he's an elite manager, and I think he is the difference between that side being a mediocre side for it to be an excellent side. Now, at this moment in time, whether we like it or we don't, everybody else is eating Manchester City's fumes. They are. Manchester City are not even out of first or second gear, and they've already got 9 points on the board. Yeah. It's ominous because they don't start normally well. So with that in mind, and he's changed things. He doesn't muck about. Guardiola. He decided that people like Mahrez might have been very effective going forward, but they weren't doing jobs going back, and that's going to change. And he wanted rid of him. And so I think it's ominous. I think everybody tragically. Because I don't like to see a league dominated. I don't want to see a Bundesliga situation where one side consistently keeps winning the Premier League. But that's want other people to change it.
Was there ever a manager you couldn't get the better of? I mean, Eddie Howe cannot.
Most
well, look at
Before
Eddie Howe.
Simon says it.
I mean, Jurgen Klopp has overseen 11 consecutive Premier League wins
Joey
against
Barton.
Eddie. Joey Barton, what? You couldn't get the better of him?
I would do off the pitch. No, for some unknown reason. I don't know what it is. You just sometimes have that, don't you? Where you can't put your finger on it.
Sure.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.